Alright, y'all, it's time again for the next step on this project. I actually just got done sanding down. I took basically extremely fine steel wool to sand this guy down just because there were some little burrs in it, nothing too crazy, but it was one of those, I think I better do this. Now, what we're going to do is, I wanted to do a little bit of color on it. I actually like the wood grain on this. I thought it came out really, it looks really cool. So, I'm going to do like a stain to it. I got this powder here that is, it's basically a water-based stain, and my plan is to actually try to do it in a blue, which they have a blue here, and what I'm going to do is take a rag here, put on my handy dandy glove, because I really don't want to get any of this stuff on my fingers, because chances are likely it would probably dye my fingers as well. So this is a water-based stain that is actually fret wire offers it. And I figure, let me try it and see what it looks like. So basically just going to take this and I'm just going to smooth it in. I don't want to go too dark. I want to actually make it a little bit more of a subtle, but because you don't see too many of these guys in a bluer tone, I figured, hey, this would be actually kind of a cool thing. I'm actually going to do the neck as well in the blue. I'm debating doing a little bit of a variety on the color on here. Just maybe changing it a little bit. Things like that. Kind of like how that blue's coming in. But I figure, let me do this, see how well it looks on here. I'm going to probably get a little bit of the blue stain in this, just to make it look a little different. And my plans is I have some tung oil, which is more or less a satin wood finish that a lot of people do use on a lot of these do-it-yourself jobs with the guitars. And I figure, let me do that and see how that goes. And it's kind of interesting seeing how much this wood is really soaking in this stain. Kind of glad I wore gloves, because looking here, but I think this is going to look really cool on here. So we're going to go through here. I'm kind of still debating how dark I want to go, and I'm been kind of thinking maybe doing a slightly different color on this. I'm going to mask off the neck, the fretboard on the neck, before I start it going. So I'm going to mask that off and get that going. So we'll see how that looks right there. So it's kind of a little bit of messy here, but let's see how well it works. Okay, I'm back again. Got the body pretty much stained. I noticed there was a little bit of a flaw here. Not quite sure what I'm gonna do with it. it's kind of little disconcerting. I obviously, if I had decided to leave everything like the pale wood color, or if I had painted it completely, that would have disappeared. But I'll figure out something. I'm thinking I might wind up doing maybe grabbing some acrylic, or I might just leave it, just as something, maybe it'll add character to it or something, What I'm doing right now with the neck and the headstock is I'm finishing up. I did a couple coats on here, basically just trying to, figured I'd do it a little bit darker than I had originally planned. The light blue looked a little wussy, to say the least. So what I did is I took a little bit more, a slightly different color. I actually used a black on here just to darken this up just a wee bit. And that way I have it darkened. As you can see, I do have the fretboard all basically taped off and everything, so hopefully that'll keep it safe as far as all this stuff goes. If not, it might be an interesting color or something. Who knows? But as you can see the wood grain and whatnot, which I thought was really pretty cool. Might decide to sand it. I'm gonna see what everybody looks like once it's dried out. I might take my steel wool and attack it again. Pretty much, as I said, I just was a little kind of meh about this little flaw here. Obviously, they probably, when this particular body was manufactured, it was probably, there was a chip there, and they probably said, hey, this isn't too bad. I'll try to fix it and see where how it goes. And you can't always do that necessarily where it's not going to be seen, because it looks like there's just basically like a little bit of a glue joint there, and I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do about that, because it's a little strange. I am kind of thinking about, with the body this color and this dark, I might actually stay, like the kit shipped with the pickguard being white, and I might actually leave the pickguard white on here. I think it's going to kind of depend on how this guy looks once he's dry and once I put the tongue oil on it, because I've got tongue oil that I'm going to be doing a finish on, which the tongue oil is going to be it's kind of very low gloss, that it'll give it a little bit of like a satin finish, which I actually kind of like the idea of. So I think that's going to be probably what I'm going to do on this guy. And basically, and pretty much what I decided to use the rags to put the stain on instead of like a brush, because I kind of like the effect with a ragged on, because it actually gives, the rags itself gives a little bit of a pattern here as well. As I mentioned, I might actually, depending on how it looks once everything's dry, I might actually take a piece of the steel wool and just rough it up a little bit before I do the tongue oil, just to give it a little bit more character. And that'll actually be a little bit more subtle as far as sanding, since the steel wool is not going to be quite as harsh. And that might be how I'll hide the little flaw right here on this. So pretty much this is going to be close to being it for today's episode. It'll probably be a few days. I got a whole bunch of stuff on the plate, which is amazing. You'd think, you know, there's stay-at-home order. Everybody needs to stay home and stuff. And I actually had a client who called me up and said, yeah, I want you to do photos. It's a magazine, so we can actually get away with it, apparently, because I think from what I'm told, since it's considered media is considered exempt on this. So I was able to go and do the photography for them. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. But looking here, as I said, I kind of like this blue. This is actually looking kind of cool. As I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens once everybody completely dries. I mean, they dried a little bit in here because, as I mentioned before, the wood is really sucking up this dye. So it's definitely really there. As I said, I just have that one spot that I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with. And I'll have this guy sitting up on here. I've got this old roll of paper towels and just kind of balance it so that both sides can dry easily. And I think that's going to be it for today's little bit. There's a couple of things that I'm looking to do. I actually have some copper tape that I'm going to be doing when I get to that point. I'll be putting just basically insulating this, so hopefully there's a few bit less noise and stuff like that on everything, because that pretty much, from what I understand from reading the reviews of the kit and everything, people did mention having some noise issues, like some buzzing and stuff like that from the pickups and things like that. And it's very likely that they may not have done something to insulate that, because they don't always necessarily mention that. Pretty much, actually need to look at the directions, so I'm kind of doing this without looking the directions, but I figured I know this is going to be the first step, so I figured I'm good to go with that. And hopefully I'll have the next step at some point that I'll be able to show y'all. Talk to you later.